At my cousin's graduation party, I stood there listening while my aunt loudly thanked the real supporters and deliberately skipped my name. When I confronted her, she smiled sweetly and said, "Well, you never really fit in, did you?" I left without saying goodbye. 2 years later, they were standing at my office door, desperately asking for a job I had the power to give or to deny. I grew up in a suburb outside Grand Rapids, Michigan. Not rich, not poor, just normal. My mom raised me alone after my dad died in a wreck when I was 6. She worked long hours at a nursing home and picked up night shifts at a local diner. She didn't have time for gossip or big family dinners. But she always made time for me. Her sister, my Aunt Sharon, was the opposite. She married young, to some smug insurance guy named Rick, and lived 10 minutes away in a bigger house with shiny appliances and matching hand towels. She had 2 kids, Eric and Rachel. Eric was older, into sports, went to college out of state. Rachel was my age, only 6 months younger. Everyone always said we were so close. We weren't. Rachel was the family star. Blonde, peppy, always in some new club. Teachers loved her. So did my grandma. She'd get new dresses for Easter, big sweet 16ths, surprise birthday trips. I'd get maybe a Target gift card and a recycled Hallmark card signed by the family. But I kept showing up. Holidays, parties, cookouts. I came to everything. Sat through long dinners while people talked over me. Gave polite smiles while Sharon bragged about Rachel's latest achievements. I didn't say much, but I listened. Always listened. The final straw came 2 years ago. Rachel was graduating from Michigan State and heading to some fancy program in Chicago. Sharon threw a massive backyard party for her. Caterers, decorations, a rented tent. They invited everyone. Friends, neighbors, old classmates, and every extended family member still living. I didn't want to go. But my mom asked me to. So I did. I bought Rachel a gift, a silk scarf from Nordstrom. Cost me more than I could afford at the time. I was in grad school, living off loans and a meager stipend. Still, I showed up with a card, a smile, and a nice dress. The party was everything I expected. Loud. Overdone. Sharon's friends comparing their kids' internships. People pretending they cared about each other's stories. I stayed near the back, sipping lemonade and watching Rachel pose for pictures like a celebrity. Then Sharon stood up on the patio steps and tapped her wine glass. "I just want to thank the people who helped Rachel get to this point," she said into a mic, smiling wide. Her dad, who worked hard to support her dreams. Eric, who always looked out for her. Her professors. Her mentor from church. Her best friend Lexi, who edited her applications at 3 a.m. And of course our wonderful extended family, Aunt Maggie, Uncle Steve, Cousin Lauren. She kept listing names. Smiling. Clapping. She never said mine. I felt my face go warm. I looked around, wondering if anyone else noticed. They didn't. Everyone was too busy nodding, too used to me not being mentioned. After the speech, I walked up to her while people were grabbing cake. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I just said, "You left me out." She looked me right in the eye. No pause. No confusion. Then she smiled and said, "Well, you never really fit in, did you?" And she turned away to greet someone else. That was it. I left without saying goodbye. Not to her. Not to Rachel. Not even to my mom. I drove home and cried. Not because it hurt, I was used to being invisible. I cried because I finally saw it for what it was. They never saw me as part of the family. I was just the other girl. The obligation. And I decided that night I would never show up again. After that party, I buried myself in work. I was finishing my master's in data analytics. I stopped checking Facebook. Stopped texting cousins who never really talked to me anyway. I focused on one thing, getting out and up. I got an internship at a mid-sized firm in Detroit. It didn't pay much, but it opened doors. I worked weekends, taught myself SQL and Python late at night. I started offering help on extra projects just to get noticed. It paid off. By the time I was 26, I had a full-time offer at a growing tech company setting up a regional office in Ann Arbor. They were investing big in data infrastructure, and I was one of the first 5 hires in my division. I worked hard, stayed quiet, and watched other people burn out from trying too hard to show off. I didn't need to show off. I just needed to keep rising. Within 18 months, I was leading a team of 7 analysts and managing internal data solutions for 3 departments. I was invited to strategy meetings. My name was listed on the leadership board online. I had a corner office. Not the biggest one, but big enough. I still didn't hear from Sharon or Rachel. Not even a like on my birthday post the one time I bothered. That was fine. Until one Tuesday morning, I got a Slack message from HR. Hey, 2 walk-in applicants asked to see you directly. Say they're family. Should we send them up? Family? I typed back, names? HR replied, Sharon and Rachel, last name. Said you'd want to meet. I stared at the screen. I sat there for a full minute before replying, send them to conference room B. I'll be there in 10. When I walked into the room, they were already seated. Rachel looked like a ghost. Pale, thinner, dark circles under her eyes. She wore a blazer that didn't quite fit. Sharon looked tired too. Makeup smeared at the corners. She had that same plastic smile I'd seen at every Christmas party. Sweetie, she said. We didn't know you worked here. Bullshit. I didn't sit down. Just stood at the head of the table, arms folded. Rachel stood. Hey, she said softly. I heard there might be an opportunity here. I'm looking to come back to Michigan. Things didn't really go as planned in Chicago. Translation, she got fired. Or worse. I saw your name on the leadership page, Sharon added quickly. And I said, isn't that wonderful? Family helping family. We just thought, maybe you could put in a word. I said nothing for a while. Then I said, funny. I thought I didn't really fit in. Rachel's face changed. Sharon looked down. I'm sorry about that, Sharon said. You know how parties are. So many people to thank. No, I said. You looked right at me and said it. That I didn't fit in. Rachel took a step closer. Please. Just an interview. That's all I'm asking. I looked at her resume on the table. Same one I'd flagged last week. I'll think about it, I said. They both smiled. Like they'd already won. But I didn't smile back. I walked out. I didn't rush. I gave it a few days. Then I pulled Rachel's resume from the system again. I read every line this time. She had a communications degree, 2 internships, and 1 job at a marketing firm in Chicago. No certifications. No data experience. No leadership roles. The job opening on my team was for a business data analyst. She didn't qualify. Not even close. Still, I didn't reject her right away. I sent an email to HR and asked them to move her into the pending interview folder but not schedule anything yet. Then I waited. A week passed. I heard nothing. Then Sharon emailed me. Long message. She asked if I'd had time to review Rachel's background. Said Rachel was going through a rough patch and just needed a fresh start. She talked about how family always sticks together. I replied, thanks for following up. We've reviewed Rachel's application. Unfortunately, her background does not align with the current role requirements. wishing her the best in her search. No greeting. No closing. Just facts. 15 minutes later, Sharon called me. She never calls. I stared at the screen and let it go to voicemail. Then came the text, I don't understand. I thought you could help. Are you seriously turning your back on us? I didn't answer. Later that night, I got a message from my cousin Eric. He hadn't texted me in 5 years. Heard what happened? Not cool. She's your cousin. Still didn't answer. The next day, Rachel showed up. Alone. She waited in the lobby until I finished my meeting. Reception called up. I came down and found her sitting with her hands in her lap, twisting a hair tie between her fingers. I just need a chance, she said. I'll take anything. Intern. Assistant. I'll even go back to school if I need to. I stood there for a moment, watching her. Not the polished, confident girl from the parties. This was someone else. Someone quieter. Desperate. I don't have anything for you, I said. Please, she whispered. I'm living with my parents again. I can't go back to waitressing. Then maybe you should have treated me like family when it mattered. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. I was just a kid, she said. I didn't mean to leave you out. You didn't. Your mom did. But you never said anything either. She looked down. I turned to walk away, then stopped. You know, I said, you always acted like I was just the weird cousin. The one who didn't matter. Well, now I matter. And I'm choosing not to forget how I was treated. She didn't try to follow me. After Rachel left that day, things went quiet. For about a week. Then one of my team members forwarded me a LinkedIn post. It was from Rachel. It read, sometimes doors slam in your face for no reason. Sometimes the people you thought would help you just don't. And that's okay. Because real strength comes from starting over without the handouts. #resilience #family is what you make it #new beginnings. It had a photo of her sitting at a coffee shop with a laptop, staring into the distance like she was planning her next startup. It pissed me off. I didn't reply. Didn't like the post. But I wasn't stupid, I knew what that was. It was bait. She wanted to make me look cold without naming names. Then it got worse. My mom called. I just got off the phone with Sharon, she said, not even a hello. She said Rachel applied for a job where you work and you treated her like dirt. I sat back in my chair. She said what? She told me you embarrassed her. Said you threw it in her face that you're in charge now. I closed my eyes. Mom. I said no to giving her a job she's not qualified for. That's it. My mom was quiet. She's telling the rest of the family, she said finally. They're saying you've changed. That you're cold now. Full of yourself. That one stung. Because I knew parts of it were true. I had changed. But not the way they meant. I hung up after promising Mom I'd call her later. Then, a few days later, I got another surprise. HR called me again. Different tone this time. We just wanted to confirm, the woman said, you didn't instruct anyone to block Rachel, last name, from applying to other roles in the company, right? What? I said, sitting up straighter. We got a complaint that someone from leadership blackballed her application. Her mother contacted our general inquiry line and claimed there was bias. I took a deep breath. I didn't block her from anything. I told you she wasn't qualified for my department. That's all. The HR rep believed me. She said it was standard procedure. But it was clear Sharon was pushing. She wasn't just embarrassed anymore. She was angry. And now, she was trying to get even. That HR call stayed with me. It wasn't just a small misunderstanding anymore, Sharon was going after my reputation. I didn't say anything for a few days, hoping it would blow over. It didn't. A week later, I got called into a meeting with 2 senior managers and someone from legal. They were looking into a concern raised by a personal contact of a former applicant. The accusation? That I'd shown bias during the hiring process and may have discouraged someone from applying elsewhere in the company. It was ridiculous. I pulled out the emails. Every step I took. The Slack messages. My original comments on Rachel's resume. Everything was clean. Professional. Still, the damage was done. One of the directors I worked with pulled me aside afterward. "Is this a family thing?" he asked. "Because that woman's been calling the main office line. Demanding to talk to people." It was embarrassing. I knew how companies worked. It doesn't matter if the complaint is nonsense. If enough people talk, the wrong kind of attention starts to grow. And I was getting it. That night, I sent Rachel a text. First one in over a year. "You've made your point. You didn't get what you wanted." I was still respectful. "Your mom is out of line. Tell her to stop or I'll take it further." She didn't reply. Instead, Sharon did. She emailed me the next morning. A long message about how sad it was that I'd let bitterness get in the way of family. She said she was only trying to advocate for her daughter and accused me of acting like a stranger. Then she ended with this line: "You may be doing well now, but people always remember who you stepped on to get there." That's when I knew. This wasn't just a mother-daughter issue anymore. Sharon wanted to ruin my name. Maybe because I embarrassed them. Maybe because I reminded them of what they'd done. But mostly because, for the first time, I had something they wanted and I didn't give it. Part 6, the blowback begins. A few days later, I went to lunch with Marissa, one of the HR reps I actually trusted. We'd worked together on a hiring project 6 months ago. Over sandwiches, she leaned in and said quietly, "Off the record, there's a rumor floating that you blacklisted someone because of a personal grudge." I laughed. "You mean Rachel?" She nodded. "I didn't believe it, but it's making the rounds. Someone said you called in favors to keep her out." I felt the blood drain from my face. I hadn't even spoken to anyone about her outside of that one flag on the resume. Someone was spreading lies. And I knew exactly who it was. I went home that night and opened Facebook for the first time in months. Sharon had posted a long, rambling status about young people who get a little power and forget where they came from. She didn't name me, but every cousin knew who she was talking about. The comments were full of sympathy. Full of people saying, "So sorry Rachel's going through this. She deserves better." My mom had liked the post. That broke me a little. I sat on my couch in silence for a long time. Then I opened my laptop. I started typing. I pulled receipts. Screenshots. Emails. Old Facebook messages. Everything I'd kept and ignored for years. And I started writing something they'd never expect. That night, I wrote out everything. Not for a post. Not for some long speech. Just for clarity. For power. I wanted to see the full picture laid out. I saved every lie they told. Every time I was left out. Every moment I was treated like I didn't belong, written in black and white. But then I realized something. I didn't need to prove anything to them. I needed to prove it to myself. They didn't get to spin this. Not anymore. So I scheduled a meeting with HR, legal, and one of the top directors I reported to. I brought the whole file. I explained who Rachel was, who Sharon was, and how they had used personal family connections to try and push their way into a job. How Sharon made multiple false claims about me. How Rachel tried to weaponize our relationship to get a position she wasn't even remotely qualified for. I showed the LinkedIn post. The emails. Even the Facebook status. I was calm. Direct. Honest. They listened. When I finished, one of the senior directors said, "You handled this better than most would have." I nodded. And now I need something official on record. So they can't do this again. They agreed. Rachel's profile was flagged in the system no longer eligible for reapplication for any role for 24 months, due to misrepresentation and abuse of internal referral protocols. And Sharon? She got a call from legal, letting her know that continued harassment or attempts to contact any employee including me would result in formal legal action for defamation and interference with business operations. I never heard from either of them again. But it didn't stop there. A few weeks later, I was at a cousin's baby shower. First family event I'd gone to in almost a year. People were weirdly quiet around me. One aunt gave me a polite smile. Another just avoided eye contact. But then Eric, Rachel's brother, came up to me by the buffet table. He said, "They're saying you destroyed Rachel's career over a speech from 2 years ago." I looked him in the eye. "No," I said. "I didn't give her a job she didn't deserve. Your mom tried to punish me for that. And Rachel let her." He just stood there. Then I added, "She had a shot. She blew it. That's on her." Later that night, I saw something that stopped me cold. My mom. On the porch. Sitting next to Sharon. They were talking quietly. Laughing. Like nothing had happened. When I got home, I called her. "I saw you with Sharon," I said. "She's still family," my mom replied. "And I think you took things a little far." I stared at the wall. It hit me harder than any of the lies or rumors. She still didn't get it. "You were never really on my side," I said. "I didn't want to pick sides. You didn't have to. You just had to stand up once. For me." She didn't say anything. So I said goodbye. And I meant it. Rachel ended up working at a local coffee shop. Still posts motivational quotes online. Still acts like she's building something. Sharon's Facebook page is quieter now. Most of the family doesn't engage with her like they used to. Me? I kept climbing. Got another promotion. Hired people who deserved it. Built a team that worked like a real team. And I finally stopped waiting for that family to include me. Because I don't need to fit in anymore. I'm the one with the door now. And I decide who gets through it.